Calling all beings, y'all. Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ, the co-conspirator for truth, revelation, and what's going on here in Canton, Stoughton, Massachusetts, and with the MSPOGG. This was a very impromptu thing. I just decided today that I wanted to do this live solo for you. And the reason that I want to do that is because a bit of an epiphanal moment that I had after seeing the Ally McCabe testimony and the KP interview that I believe she was doing with Court TV, where both had Freudian slips that alluded to Colin wasn't even in the house when John O'Keefe was there. And you know what? For legal purposes, I am, to the max extent possible, going to try to use initials tonight so as not to call things out full name. So like I said, everybody is watching Nurse Kim and Brian LTL, who are doing, and Mazza Media, I believe also. I think he joined after I went to take a shower and bathe the dog and get ready for this show. I think Mazza had not joined yet. He probably has joined. Let me see who's here in the chat. Hello, Miss Jessica. Good evening, love. Cat Lady, happy Sunday. What's up, home girl? It's good to see you. And it's not a jovial night tonight. That's why I'm wearing all black. That's in honor of Officer John O'Keefe, whom we're honoring with this episode. And I'm going to try to piece this together for you guys in a very cogent manner that espouses or seeks to utilize what we know, the facts and evidence, along with common sense reasoning and sort of annotations of what the law suggests as well, and see where we come out on the other side of it. I am quite confident that I understand what happened at 34 Fairview that night, and I've never felt that way until now. I'm very interested to see what happens tonight. Lenny, thank you, love. Namaste. And without further ado, I'm not going to make anybody wait. I'm going to jump right into it. So I don't have pictorials for you tonight, so it'll just be the dulcet tones of my voice along with my thoughts and some things that I've written down that you can't see. So I'm going to start off with how they got to 34 Fairview. So I've said this on a number of occasions. Many of you have heard me talk about the drama between Brian Higgins, the jilted, interested party who probably had a crush on Karen Read, and rightly so. She's a beautiful woman. That is part and parcel of all of this. And obviously she had a very rocky relationship with John, as many of us had. My wife and I got angry at one another today and called each other names. You know, it happens, right? It's not something you're proud of when you do it. But let's start with the call out. So we're in the bar. We are at the waterfall. And I want you in the chat, correct me if you hear something wrong. And if one of you wants to come on and discuss this, let me know. Hello, what's up, Marjorie? Welcome. Let me know. And I can send you on Twitter DM. I can send you the link to get on the show if you so choose, and you have something that you want to get off your chest about this. So we're at the bar, and there's no question that Brian Higgins, who is being ignored, as this was put out by Microdots as well. All of us that have been had it in our hearts for a woman, who had a crush on a woman, whether we were at the age of 13, 15, 18, 23, 33, 43, doesn't matter. When you have a crush on a girl and that girl is for whatever reason stopped or no longer paying attention to you, it is extremely irritating when that happens. And that is what I believe, obviously, is what happened here, as evidenced by the text messages. Brian Higgins is texting Karen. Karen's not responding back. He's getting pissed off. He sees a 6'2", good-looking Boston police officer over there with no fat on his body, who is what girls might call a tall drink of water. And you ladies that are in the chat, correct me if you think I'm incorrect about that, about John O'Keefe. He was a tall, good-looking man. So what happens is when guys are lonely and they're in the bar that night, the more they drink, the more angry they get. You have people who are angry and violent drunks. We all know them. And then we have people that are happy drunks, that they go and they have a few drinks and they loosen up and they have even more fun and they laugh more. It's just painful. But I've never gotten upset necessarily other than when well, actually it has happened. I think it was 12th grade. I was dating a 10th grader and she decided to stop dating me and date another 10th grader. And it pissed me off. I was angry with that guy, but it didn't ruin my night. And I certainly didn't go up to that guy and want to fight that guy. I was like, it's not that guy's fault that another woman, that the girl is more interested in him at that point than me. So it wasn't his fault that was the case. So, all right, so we have that. Now, the dynamic that I want you to understand is we're talking about Copland here. Definitely handsome. Okay, here's definitely handsome, well-built, opposite of Higgins. And I think John was probably very charming and charismatic. I would think so, based on, he's had several girlfriends and that he was able, everybody speaks well of him, and he was able to woo Karen back into the relationship from their 20s and now in their 40s. So, yeah, evidence would suggest that. Okay, so we're living in Copland here. There are a lot of police officers who are not even from Canton, like Mike Proctor, who now live in Canton, like Brian Higgins and others. So if you're being called out to fight by a guy, and that guy's in the bar and he's doing this, and Chris Albert is standing in front of him, so he's having to lean over. I guess it'd be this direction, and he's doing this, and he's pointing. He's like, you want some of this, O'Keefe? You want some of this? That means only one thing in a bar, for those of you who haven't been in a fight. That means, do you want to fight? How do we know that? Now, there still is some conjecture there. The only way we know that is we know that these guys are not friends. He had never, though they live in the same town, he had never been to Brian B.A.'s house before. Never. So now the texts come across, are you coming? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So he invited at some point John to come over to the after party at that house. And after the point, he knows it's to fight. If he says no, then Brian Higgins, hello, Mello's a restaurant. Welcome back. I agree, AKA. I also think he probably was a player. You know what? You may be absolutely right about that. I don't doubt. I've had that same feeling. I just don't have enough evidence to back that up, Mello's arrest warrant. But I agree with you. The video at the bar is the most compelling evidence. Shantae's Inferno. No question. Anybody who's been in a bar and seen guys that were about to fight, that point where someone is trying to keep you from getting to that other party, that point and that nod of the head is like, you come on, MFer. You want some of this? Huh? You want to come fight this? That is what that means. There is zero question in my mind that that's what that was all about. Let's go to the next point. So again, there's a text to back that up, and the fact that he had never been to BA's house before to back that up. Heel toe. Yeah, so this is something that Sean has pointed out, the heel toe, the Ali shuffle. Hey, Julie, how are you, love? Thank you, love. I know you. Thank you for stopping in. The heel toe, the Ali shuffle, what Sean calls it, I can't really see it just because I'm not as good as Sean is, at evaluating these videos because Sean has been through hundreds of these videos and looking and evaluating them for evidence. I frankly have not seen a good enough copy and studied it close, so I'm taking Sean's word for it that John was in fact doing the alley shuffle at the other side of the bar. So now we get to the part where he asks Karen to take him to 34 Fairview. Karen does not want to go to the after party. She wants to go home. So we get to the point here where, I was able to see if I can, okay. We get to the point here where Karen says during her 2020 interview, "Why are we going there, John? Nobody invited me there, and I didn't hear anybody invite you." We don't know what John's response was. We would have had to heard all the B-roll and everything else that was involved in that interview that we didn't hear. But he probably did not tell Karen that he was going there to fight. Because he needed to go there. Let me go back to Copland again, and before we proceed forward, because I want to do this in a systematic and chronological way, so that when we get to the end, it makes sense to you guys, and it doesn't sound like ridiculum. Okay, if John says no, knowing that Brian Higgins' office is inside Canton PD, he is going to go and tell all of those officers that he's friendly with in Canton that O'Keefe is a PUSSY. That's exactly what's going to happen. And if you're John O'Keefe, you don't want BH going in there and telling people, "Hey, that dude, I called him out, asked him to meet me over at Albert's house so we could get something done. And he's a PUSSY because he didn't show up. Because he's scared of me, that dude. Totally scared of me." That is very real for a guy at any age. That could be in your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, possibly even at my age in your 50s. You could say, "I don't want to look at you're damn right. Even if you're going to get your ass kicked, you need to show up over there. You do not want to be labeled with all those cops that live in Copland in Canton as a PUSSY because you didn't show up." I mean, that's the bottom line. Patty Murphy, "It saddens and infuriates me that this type of shenanigans go on with members of LE." Absolutely, but this is when you're out at a bar, and I was in the military. I mean, I wore a uniform for 21 years of my life. So you're out at the bar and you are now divorced from who your persona is. Now you're a guy in a bar who likes a girl and you're being ignored, and someone is challenging your manhood and saying, "Hey, why don't you come to this after party?" Because in theory, he wants to see if JOK is man enough to turn up there. Now, what may have been going between BA and BH at that house before John shows up, maybe getting them all excited and getting them roughed up that maybe there's going to be a confrontation, I don't know. That is conjecture. We don't know about that. But it likely could have happened. Because clearly, if JOK and BA were friends, he would have been to that house sometime in his career, having lived 4 miles away in Canton, and he wasn't. So that tells you they were not friends. All right. Julie has something here. Julie says, "Think they used Higgy to lure John for entertainment and beef with other Albert cop brother, Kevin. Higgy didn't actually fight IMO. BA sucker punches. JOK, Colin, Chloe are the Chloe attacks." All right. I'm going to give you my theory on that, Jules, and then you can do with that what you will. But I'm going to try to back it up with a little more. So now we have a reason why he wanted to go to the house that he obviously did not disclose to Karen, else she would not have probably taken him there, or she would have tried to talk him out of going there, which is why she says in her 2020 interview, and what Mello's arrest warrant, doesn't matter if you're a fighter or not. Beers, you ever heard of beer muscles? People think they're tougher when they have beer in them and when they have their friends around in particular than they actually are. Look at Jim Ferris, look at Sam Nagel, etc. Okay. So now we have motive of why he wants to go over there. And we have Karen unaware of this because she tells the cameras, she's like, did anyone invite you over there? Because no one invited me. I didn't hear them invite you. So now you have, so obviously what John wants to do is to duck his head in the house, go in there for a couple minutes, show that he's not scared, and then leave. Because he tells Karen, I'll only be a few minutes. I want you to let that sink in. He had to have told Karen, wait here, I'll only be a couple of minutes. And then he doesn't emerge from the house. Okay? So that tells you that when he showed up there, he may have been immediately summoned down to the basement where the gym was. Because you're not going to let somebody fight in your living room with tables or in your kitchen where they had that nice little center island thing there. And all the trinkets and gadgets and probably I Love Me wall stuff that Brian had, who knows where, in his office or in his living room. And you're certainly not taking him up to the bedroom. That leaves one place, and that's the basement, obviously, right? So now we have the cell phone data. The cell phone data has John descending stairs inside the house. So that's how we know that he went down to the basement. And it may have been just a minute or two after he entered the house. Now we go down into the basement, and we can assume who was there. We can assume BA was there as the Mr. Boxer, tough guy. We know BH was there because he's the one who asked John to come over there. So we know for sure he was there. And then we have the guy that everybody is trying to go to great lengths during the trial to say this individual was not in the house. And that gentleman's name is Colin. And I shouldn't use the word gentleman because there's no evidence to suggest whatsoever that he's a gentleman. So now we're in the basement, and obviously a fight ensues. Now, how do we know there was a fight? We know there was a fight because of the bruises. Let me see, I can maybe bring this up on the computer. The bruises on the backs of John's hands. And if you'll give me a second, I'll try to bring this up if you guys want to see this. So that we could look at those injuries on John's hand. Just give me a second here. Oh man. I'm trying to remember who I have trouble finding this on my phone. If you'll just give me a second, I will, because these injuries really tell a lot of the story. And obviously, we love to lean on having a medical professional like Nurse Kim, but you don't even necessarily need to be a medical professional. Here you go. I found it. It was given to me by Suzanne Cleveland. So I'm going to airdrop it to my Mac. And there it goes. And now I'm going to try to bring this up in another window and then see if we can go ahead and share it. So let me give you a second here, my friends. There we go. Okay. All right. Can you guys see that? Here we go. Here it goes. Okay. So now, if you are watching this on your computer, if you go to full screen, you'll be able to see this more clearly. I'm going to go to full screen, so I won't see the chat real quick. So if you go to full screen on this, now I can see, we see the injuries on the arm that are very consistent with a dog bite and the claw marks from a dog. But on the backs of his hands here, you see them measuring the injury on John's, that looks like John's left hand, or his right. Let me see, that is, I can't tell if that's left hand or right hand, but you can see large bruises on the backs of his hands that would indicate defensive wounds. And if you look up here in the eyes, you can see the abrasions on the nose, and you can see these swollen eyeballs. Okay. All right. I'm gonna escape out of this now. But basically you can see that now, and then we can see, we can come back to this and see the 3-inch gash on the backs of his hands. That is not an IV bruise like the ME stated. No, it's not. Those are defensive wounds because he was already nearly dead by the time they did that. So definitely not. Okay. So now we're going to get to the part about the fight, and this is what I wrote down for you guys. Dog bites 100%. There's no question. I've shown that to Coach Chris Luttrell. Coach Chris Luttrell is a retired Albuquerque Police Department police officer. He also was a New Mexico State Trooper. He also worked for the Sandoval County Sheriffs. He also coached MMA for over 20 years, and he was an MMA fighter himself. He was Jackson's MMA's first fighter. So he has seen every kind of bruise, every kind of injury associated with the fight. Now, this really gets into the Enrique Delgado situation, but it also can be applied here. Those are defensive wounds. Now, let me get to this part, and this part I want everybody to really pay attention to. Right now, I can't even see the screen because I want to state my notes to you, and I want to get your reaction to it. And like I said, if somebody wants to come on the stream in reaction to it, I will bring you on. I will DM you on Twitter. If we have a one-on-one fight in the basement at 34 Fairview between BH and JOK of BA's house, we do not have anything that is legally actionable. I want to say that again. If we have a one-on-one fight between BH and JOK at 34 Fairview in the basement, we have maybe some disciplinary action from, depending on the injuries, from each officer, both JOK and BH, but we do not have something legally actionable that the Norfolk County DA's office would go and investigate and or prosecute between two adults, off-duty, two officers, having a one-on-one fight in the basement. Can we all agree on that? Is there anybody who disagrees with that? And if you do, if you disagree with me, put it in the chat. We don't have something that would be prosecuted or that is, in my opinion, legally actionable, and I am not an expert. I am not a lawyer. Nope. Okay. Let's go to part 2. We agree. We got Patty, we got Emma, and we have Julie agreed. Okay. Yeah, we're going to get to that, Emma. We are going to get to that. Let me go to stage 2. If we have JOK take a punch from either BH, from BA, or from Colin, and fall into a piece of weight room equipment that causes a 2.5 to 3-inch gash to the right of the occipital lobe, the soft part of the skull, we do not have something that is criminally actionable at that point. Is there anybody who doesn't agree with me? If they're in a fight, John gets punched in the face, he falls back, he hits his head on something. This is one of the hypotheses that's out there, is that he fell back and hit his head, and that was it, and they should have just called 911. So, no, not even manslaughter right now, Julie. They just had a fight, and this, well, you know what? Maybe manslaughter, but we haven't got there yet, Julie, because right now we just have an injury. We had a fight between two adult officers, and we have an injury that occurred. So we can't have manslaughter yet because nobody's died yet. Can everybody agree with that? I can't say that that's an assault because they're in a fight. It's a one-on-one fight at this point, and we're going to hypothesize that we're going to scenarize here that John O'Keefe falls after getting punched. Let's say he punched Brian punched him, he's dazed by the punch, he falls back and hits his head. We do not have anything criminally actionable. Marjorie, you're jumping ahead. We're not there yet. We're not at aid yet. We have John falling back maybe, and we're just throwing a hypothesis out there, and he happens to hit his head. Because He landed a blow, and Brian Higgins landed a blow, etc., and he falls back and hits his head. We have nothing criminal yet. Does everybody agree with that? Fair? We good? Okay. So right now, if this is the scenario, there is no crime that has occurred yet. No crime. Now we're going to go to step 3. So we got something from Shantae's Inferno. Agreed, they could have even said they were messing about, had an accident. Let me put this up here so that we can. Okay. Agreed, they could even have said they were messing about, an accident happened, and they called 911. But I think they okay, but we're not even there yet. We just want to know if they're engaged in a fight and John O'Keefe falls and smacks his head, has anything illegal occurred yet? That's what we're trying to ascertain. And anything that would get anybody in serious trouble. Because we know that in the case of Brian Albert, he's been in a lot of fights and hasn't gotten in trouble yet. Okay, so we're good on that. Patty Murphy says, meh. So tell me what you mean by that, by meh. Because all I'm trying to do is there something legally actionable by two guys getting in a fight, a fair fight, where both guys agree that they were going to fight and they hit each other, and one falls back and hits his head? Do we have a crime? That's what I'm asking, Patty. Okay, so I got not yet, but the injury was the result of the blow, but we don't have a crime yet. We don't have a crime yet. It's not criminal to hit if you're in a fight with someone and they fall and hit their head. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've committed criminal assault. Okay? All right. I work in forensic psych, and the charges my patients come in with have been less than that. Okay, fair, but we're talking about two police officers here. And you can see that the local legal entities like the district attorney's office and even in Boston with all the stuff that Sean McDonough has brought to light that Brian Albert has gotten away with, they have not taken action on any of them, which is part of what Sean's complaint is that he's committed violence on a number of people. So I understand. First of all, thank you so much, Patty, for offering that expertise. But I think in the context of what we're talking about here, I don't think we have anything that either man would be charged with. They're both hit each other. One guy falls, hits his head. We haven't even gotten to what's going to happen after that. So I'm just trying to get some agreement on that. Okay. Now Cat Lady, I'm going to get to you in a second. I'm going to star you right here. And then I'm going to get to, and I'll star you, Julie, and then I'm going to get to the third part of this. Okay? This is the most important part of the entire discussion that we're having here. If BH is engaged with JOK in a fight, and they're in stances, and they are in some sort of a fight, someone strikes JOK from behind and hits him on the back of a head with a metal object, now, and only now, have we strayed into the territory of a felonious assault. If someone strikes JOK from behind with a metal object when he's engaged in some sort of a one-on-one fight with BH, now we have strayed into the area of what could be considered and charged as a felonious assault. That which left a 2.5 to 3 inch gash on his occipital lobe right there. I'm going to go to full screen here. And there we go. You can see it if you go to full screen on whatever you're watching this on. You can see that just to the right of the occipital lobe on the back of his head. He got smacked with something that was metal and heavy enough to break the skin and not blunt enough to just crack his skull and cause a big bump and a bruise, but to break the skin. He got hit in the head right there. Now we have strayed into felonious assault. Okay, here we go. This is Patty's got something interesting here, and we'll get back to our thing. There was another fight in Norfolk County between members of LE that resulted in a death. It took more than a year to find the players and bring charges. Quincy M.A. and L.E. Barr. I don't know what L.E. Barr means, but that is not surprising. So now you've kind of made the point we were looking for, Patty, and I appreciate, once again, your expertise. So now here we go now. There's no question. No question here, Kate. And welcome. It wasn't the sidewalk. Okay. So now we have these injuries. And at some point, the dog gets involved. I'm not going to go into that because we have no idea about when the dog got involved and who pulled him off, and it really doesn't matter. It's not germane to what happened here and what the motive is, because the whole purpose of me having this discussion with you guys tonight is to Cop Bar in Quincy called the LE. Thank you, Patty. We're trying to establish what was the motive for two law enforcement officers to allow John to die. For what reason did two brother officers see an officer who was in grave danger, and you had a EMT or nurse there? I think it was Sarah Levinson. So obviously she knew the seriousness of the injury. If they in fact told her, we don't know that. But he was seriously injured. And now what would the motive be to let him die? Because I would argue if they're camping, if they're at a fishing lake somewhere, well, CYA doesn't quite cover it, though, because we want to get to exactly why. Yes, CYA, if we were to take a broad, we're trying to compartmentalize this down to why they would allow someone to die. But yes, CYA overall, that is absolutely correct. Like you said last night, to protect Colin. So that's where we're trying to get to. If Colin was the one who struck that blow with something, because obviously there was the injuries to his fist, but and we don't know when that occurred, and we don't know if he was standing in front of John at one point. But if someone were to strike him on the back of the head with a metal object, like a piece of weight equipment, now we have something that can be charged a felony. Because we need a motive for why two brother officers would allow this man, and in fact encourage this man to die, to protect something or someone. Now, what would have happened to B? Is it possible that it was BA? It's possible. Is it more than likely that it was not BH because he was the one who said that he wanted to fight him? More than likely. So what we have is a number of people trying to state that Colin was never in the house and that John was, and that Colin had left before Karen and John arrived. But then we had two slip-ups by individuals who are familiar, who have spoken to all the parties in KP and AM, Alley, that have slipped up and said Colin was not there when John was there. So that's how we put him in the house. And then if we were anywhere else, again, we'll go back to they're at a fishing lake. We are at an outdoor concert. And the reason I use a fishing lake or a hunting camp is a place where if John were there and he were injured somehow, these two men would have called 911 to effect the rescue and to save his life. But they didn't. So why wouldn't they do that? If people think it's just because Brian is a psycho and he's violent, I don't believe that. Because if that was the case, he could have engineered a way to get in front of John O'Keefe and take him out. And I don't think he would do that. I don't think they planned this whatsoever. I don't think anything was planned more than a fight, than to say, do you want to face me? You want to come to my face, JOK? Come and prove that you'll stand in front of me. That's what BH was after. And when you're drunk and you have beer muscles, yeah. Now, AKs, and Jen gets involved because Colin left through the backyard, ran to the high school where Jen's daughter Allie picks him up. Oh, is that where she picked him up? I thought she picked him up at the house. Does anybody know that? Is that true? Did Allie testify she picked him up at the high school? Somebody please correct me on that. Julie says bingo. BA said Colin left before he got there. They all tried hard not to have Colin in the house. You're right. There's been 2 Freudian slips. Colin was there. No question now, that he was there. So if he was there, he would be one reason. He is the one that, if Brian, first of all, whomever hits this person from behind, hits JOK from behind, and he wakes up and he tells police officers from Canton who respond to this as he's rushed to the hospital, he's in the ER, he's treated and he's recovering from the head wound. Officers from Canton are going to show up and he is going to tell them somebody struck him in the back of the head. John O'Keefe is going to tell the officers who struck him on the back of the head. Kevin Albert, being a detective, now you got issues. Now you maybe have a recusal. And then again, because they recused themselves because of the fact that he died, it automatically became a state police case. But you may have had a recusal if John goes to the ER and he wants to talk to officers and tells them, I was struck in the back of the head by Colin or by Brian. Then automatically, they're going to call in the state police. Now, once the district attorney gets involved, he or she is going to have to prosecute or charge somebody with hitting this guy in the back of the head, creating that gash. We needed a motive for somebody to allow a bleeding man to die, to put him out on the lawn, and then have some evil son of a Google Haas Long to die in cold. You have some evil person, her trying to pretend on the stand, he's my friend. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Are you really kidding? You think we're buying that, Jen? You've got to be out of your effing mind if you think we're buying that. That Google search indicated what their plan was. He cannot recover and finger one of these folks for hitting him in the back of the head. And Brian Albert has skated out of this trouble before. He skated out of it with, Sean's told us, he smashed that bottle over that fireman's head and got away with it. People thought that he died before he hit the floor. Hey, what's up, Joe? Thank you, brother, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, we've been this channel for 3 years overall. I've been podcasting for 14 years. But this trial, this Karen Read trial, is what got me to... we started doing true crime the month before I became aware of the Karen Read trial. Anyway, let's get back to... so Joe's here. He can hear the hypothesis. So essentially, in my mind, let me take a drink of water. I'm not used to talking this much on air. This is why I have guests. And once again, welcome Margaret, welcome Joe, and everybody that just joined. It's an honor to have each and every one of you. I'm going to put something at the bottom of the screen too. Okay. So there's one motive that I can think of, because BA has skated out of these situations before, as illustrated brilliantly by my brother, Sean McDonough, the guy who put me in this community. Without Sean McDonough, I wouldn't even be in the Free Karen Read community, but for Sean McDonough. So thank you, Sean. So BA has skated out of these violent encounters before. So now we have one person that BH and JOK getting in a fight. We have no actionable criminal activity. Even if JOK is struck and falls and hits his head, as illustrated here, we don't have a felony. We don't have a crime here. We have someone that got injured, and we call 911. He's treated, and then everybody has some splaining to do to their boss, BH, down at his boss from DEA, to the Canton PD, and then obviously BA has to do his splaining to his superiors down at Boston PD when JOK wakes up and says, yeah, I got in a fight and I fell and I hit my head and I got a gash in it and I went to the ER. And immediately he's going to have to call the duty desk down there, the duty sergeant down there, and tell the duty sergeant that he's been hospitalized, that he's been injured and he's in the ER. So JOK is immediately going to do that. And BA also would have been responsible to do that. So why wouldn't they do that? What would cause them to go from up, we had a fight, John got hurt, let's call 911, to up, we had a fight, I smashed John in the back of the head with a metal object, and now we have felony assault. And if it's teenager Colin, now we have a situation where we have to let this dude expire. Because if he wakes up and he tells that Colin smashed him in the back of the head with a metal object, he will never be a police officer with that on his record. With that felony, if he is charged, tried, and convicted of felony assault, which the witness is a Boston police officer, and then you have his uncle would be called to testify for the prosecution, as would Higgins. They both would have been called to testify along with anyone else who was in that home against Colin. So more than likely, unless there's a plea deal of some sort, you have felony assault. Now, on every single job application for the rest of this kid's life, you have, were you convicted of a felony? Yes, in that box, and give below details. And I can tell you from the latest gig that I just started in August and from my wife's gig, that question is on there on both my applications and hers. And I've worked for the government, contractor, all kinds of different roles. And it is everywhere. It's on there. If you work for, I worked for Crunch Fitness as a teacher. It's on there. It's on every job application. And Colin would have to put that and then explain it on every, in some places, you got a conviction for felony assault, you're not getting hired. I don't care what story you tell them. And isn't it overwhelmingly likely that this guy's going to want to go into the family business and be a police officer? It is. Now, Gio, it does matter what we think. And it does matter what the jury thinks. They voted 9-3 to convict on manslaughter. They didn't buy it. Doesn't matter what they thought. I am offering my own conjecture on what I think happened based on what makes common sense and the evidence. Because we have to go from this guy just got hurt in a fight to, and we're going to call 911 and get him medical treatment, to we have to let this guy die. Do you see that gap? We have to cover this gap here. Somebody got hurt. We're calling 911. You know what? Nope. We're going to let this guy expire and die. Horribly, tragically. How did we get there? That's what we want to know. So it does matter. And they have a nurse there who knows he could linger for days treated. Maybe not even not treated. He could linger. Okay, so you're going to have to explain that a little better, Jules. I don't quite get that. I don't know exactly what you mean with that. In the SC, the hand of one is the hand of all. In the SC, do you mean in the code of the law? Marjorie, can you be more specific with that so that we understand? I'm not a lawyer, although I'd like to be one. What a horrible thought, but it is believable. Yes, I mean we have to go from we're going to get you treated. You just got hurt. It was a fight. You fell and hit your head. We're going to get you treated. We went from there to we are not going to get you treated. We are going to let you expire and die. And we have to figure out how we got from there to there. Us, the jury doesn't need to know that. And if I'm Alan Jackson, just like attorney Mark Betterow and others have said, you don't need to build the conspiracy for them because it's going to be too much. Like I said, they're gonna flood the zone with BS and have 68 witnesses. You're going to put on 6, and the people are only going to remember. Plus, Lally got to speak last. You don't need to build the conspiracy. You just have to show there's reasonable doubt. If there's reasonable doubt, she's not guilty. And there's enough reasonable doubt in this case to fill an entire room with popcorn. Hence, I think she meant to say Haas Long. Okay, Margaret says, Margaret Ferenc Slattery, interesting name. BA's own brothers got out of long sentences to their drama, for their drama. I don't know. I only know about Chris. So, Margaret, if you know of another one, please let me know. I'd like to know. I only know about Chris, who got off on that manslaughter with, I guess it was Judge Bev's brother was the defense attorney. I guess he did some time, but he didn't do a life sentence, that's for sure, for killing that student immigrant, I believe he was. Shantae's Inferno, he would have a record. The irony is the mother, JM, has had the daughter involved as well by getting her to lie in the stand. Yes, no question, Shantae. But they had to, because they're concentric circles, right? You start with, we started with that decision. Then we had, again, we'll go back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show. The moment that an officer in charge from Canton PD showed up on the lawn in the snow at 34 Fairview, the moment they stepped on that lawn, the investigation began. The moment they decided not to knock on that door, knowing who the owner of the home was, the investigation was over. Same thing with the Mass State Police. Proctor steps on the lawn. He decides not to knock on the door. His investigation is over. It was that quick. We stepped on the lawn. We saw. We didn't go to the front door because of who owned the home. Investigation is finished. Now we got to figure out how to cover it up. And as Shannon McMahon said, the former DA, small circles, concentric circles that get larger and larger and larger because you don't know what you have to cover up until it progresses. We got to see the car. Don't make sure we don't take a photo of the car, because if we take a photo of the car, then we have evidence against ourselves that she didn't hit him. So we got to not take a picture of the car. Then we got to pass the state police Sally Port, and then another state police Sally Port, and then we got to take it to the Canton Sally Port, and then we got to have Officer Wanless remove the taillight, and then we got to smash the taillight into 45 pieces instead of the one piece that had fallen down inside that Officer Barros tested to. That should have been the end of the case right there. Dighton Police Officer Barros said, I saw the car, there was a cracked taillight and a piece had fallen down inside. That should have been the end of the case. Should have been the end. You had one independent party that saw the car and said a cracked taillight, a piece fallen down inside. Not an interested party who was his sister had Colin Albert in the wedding party in Mike Proctor, that he was also a groomsman and the kid was a ring bearer, but an impartial person, Officer Barros from Dighton. that said that was the condition of the damn taillight. That should have been the end right there. End. Then they show a completely smashed taillight. And if that wasn't enough, they show you the they show you the left side of the car that they're projecting to you through the mirror is the right side of the car, so that when you see the red taillight reflect off an officer, you're going to think that you're looking at the left side, at the right side of the car, but you're looking at the left side of the car because they don't want you to know that it's still a red lens at that point when it comes in the Sally port, because they smashed it so there was no red lens left, period. All right. Now I've screamed enough. Let me see what else we got here. Cat lady. At Shante worse. Since Allie picked Colin up, she becomes an accessory. Yeah, I mean it could go that way. I mean but I don't know if they'll ever have enough to prove that. They just need to prove the conspiracy, and that's where hopefully they'll get got. Jen McKay probably got her mouth involved too. No question. No question that she was the orchestrator and desired to be so. South Carolina. Okay, yeah, I have to go back to your earlier comment because I didn't understand what the SC meant. Okay, it all got out of control. JMC getting involved. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Unbelievably, she involved her own teenage daughter. She had to. She had to at that point. Everybody was involved at that point. Everybody was exposed at that point. Because they had to get Colin out of the situation, because if he were somehow, he's the one who could be most hurt by this if he had survived. So they had to make sure that A, he didn't survive, which they did successfully, house long to dying cold, and B, they had to make sure that Colin could not be fingered in any way. Wasn't even there. He was gone before Karen Read even pulled up to the house. Yeah, except for two people said he wasn't there when John was there. There you go. His brother Tim leaving that accident drunk too. Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that, his brother Tim. Okay. To hasten his death. Right, exactly. House long to die in cold. It'll be quicker if we get him out there. He might live too long in here. Disgusting, sick people. And Allie's Life 360 put her at the high. Oh, thank you, cat lady. So that's how you got there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. Life 360. Thank you. Lack of investigation. Right, exactly. There was Mello's arrest. There was no investigation. It was meant to be that way, because if they investigated, they would uncover exculpatory evidence to Karen, and that could not happen. There is nothing in that they uncovered that they meant to uncover that was exculpatory to Karen. In fact, they wouldn't have even had Trooper Proctor's text were it not for the FBI. Pin it on the girl. 100. The police had a video of someone walking. That's really interesting. That is really interesting. Okay, Tim Albert was involved in a property damage hit and run. Thank you, Jan. Found his car at Brian Albert. He got a slide. Yeah, no question. I mean, that's what you would expect. That's what you would expect. And that's why I don't think that this really has to do with BA or BH unless one of them struck John on the back of the head with that object that cut the back of his head. And why would they then go to such great lengths to absolve Colin if that's the case, given that he had the injuries on his knuckles? So he obviously engaged in some sort of a fight also somehow with it may have been a beatdown, that they were just going to beat the hell out of it. I don't know. But I do know we have to get from guys injured, we're going to get him an ambulance, to we have to let him die. There's a motive there, a big M, a capital M. And we have to figure out what that capital M is. What was the motive, Joe Flipperhead? Okay. All roads lead to one person, Jen. not lying and creating story to cover for Higgins. You want the answer? Look at Colin and Allie. Stories start to... Yes. I mean, this is the way I see it. This is the only plausible reason to let an officer to die is because you would have to think that someone more important than that officer is exposed and at risk. And that's why you would do this. You would, and the only person I could think of that is Colin, because now he would have a criminal record. And that's the only thing I can think of that everybody would go to those lengths. I don't think Brian would do it. BA, I think he was there more or less as like a referee. He wanted to see the fight. He wanted to see who was going to win. That is my opinion, my dear. Exactly, Joe. That will motivate parents to cover things up fast. So, yes. I mean, the things that people would lie over, I can understand a parent wanting to lie for their child. But a felony assault. Hi, Mary Flynn. Thank you and welcome, love. I know you were over and they had a brilliant show. Brian LTL, Mazza Media, and the incomparable Nurse Kim were very rightly covering Enrique Delgado Garcia and how it's been a month and we haven't heard word number one from the Mass State Police because they're probably figuring out how much state money they can pay them off with to be quiet. Let me see. Where was I? Yeah, so we were right here. Yes, I mean, I understand wanting to cover for a son or a daughter, and why somebody would do that. What I don't understand is I don't understand how you can let a woman go to jail for life compared to a young one having a felony assault on his or her record. That is something that can be overcome. It's going to limit your job prospects. There's no question about that because every service now, they're using E-Verify. You guys can help me out in the chat. There are national companies they're using, like private investigators would use, E-Verify type companies that will find if you've been convicted of a felony anywhere, if you were on a some sort of a, what do they call those lists for people's sexual assault, they will find any of these things. They will find if you have that kind of a conviction. And they would have found Colin. But your life's not over and you're not without choices. They would lie and put this woman in jail for the rest of her life, potentially, over something that someone else did. I couldn't do that. I couldn't, even if it was my son, I couldn't do it. You are going to have to go through life with a felony assault on your record because you did the crime, you do the time. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the way it is. Let's go to Shantae's Inferno. If LA had done a proper investigation, they'd be able to match what hit John in the head. The ME could have had an exact shape match of what caused blunt force unless one of them had dumped it somewhere. There's no question, unless that had been dumped out of the house that night, and it quite possibly would have, but so somebody could have taken that object in their car and left the home. But then you have ring camera videos, right? You know, we talked about Lieutenant Kelleher, who lived across the street, had a ring camera video. And then Turtle Boy went to the houses of two other neighbors, asked about ring camera video, and they're like, no. So, yes, you can't do an investigation unless you want Karen Read to get off, and they didn't. Once again, namaste, Mary. Julie Albert, babysat Proctor's kids. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, there was those Facebook posts where they said they're second families. You know, so there's no way, there's not one thing they did that's right. You're going to have a much easier time pointing out what they did right because it's a very truncated list because they did everything wrong on purpose. So it would take me a long time to go through everything they did wrong, and what they did right is basically nothing. I mean, the only things that they gave to the defense, they denied all their motions, they denied them evidence, they gave them cell phones extractions that were without hash values for Jennifer McCabe and John O'Keefe. How do you explain that? If Joe Flipperhead, if not for Jen's mouth, we may not be even here today, both before John's death and since. Yeah, you were right. Frightening to think how many of those jurors sat through the trial and were going to vote guilty. Yes, it's unfortunate, but common sense is not common. And that's why I heard one of my friends today, I think it was Nurse Kim, say, we will see Karen Read acquitted. I don't think you'll ever see that. Look at our country. Look at the elections. Look at 50, 49, 51, and you know that you will not. First of all, there'll probably be plants on the jury. That's A, and B, like there probably was last time. And you will not get all 12 of them to agree. I'll bet my life on it. There will be a hung, if she's tried again, there'll be a hung jury again. If she were tried a third time, God forbid that ever happens, there'll be a hung jury the third time. Inverted ridiculous. Yes. And I know Mary's talking about that Sally Port video. Yeah. And the superimposed timeline that is of no consequence and people ghosting in and out of the images or the full motion video. Everybody thinks Jen was the mastermind. Yeah. Got to run. Love you, Jules. Bye, babes. All hands on deck. That's right. Yeah. When Julie's not here. Yes, it's awful because, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's the way I have to go based on the evidence that's been presented to us. And there is conjecture here. This is a hypothesis. But, well, first of all, let me say this because I said this in the UFO community. I'm going to make an analogy here between the UFO community and this. So, Commander David Fravor, U.S. Navy Top Gun pilot, engaged with a tic-tac craft off the coast of San Diego in 2004 with his wingman, Alex Dietrich, and two backseaters. And they engaged with a craft that displayed capabilities that me, coming from the aerospace industry for, I don't know, the last 30 years of my life or more, I don't believe exists in our inventory. Nor did David Fravor, nor did those who picked it up on radar and watched its maneuvers. There's a debunker who would be the guy that broadcast from his mom's basement, the yellow whatever cottage, the guy who broadcast from his mom's basement, whatever his name is. That guy would be Mick West, the debunker Mick West. And people have said that was faked, that it wasn't what it was, that it was something else, that it was U.S. tech, that it was Russian tech, that it was Chinese tech. And I said to any of those, you bring the oracle of truth with a scythe in his hand that can chop your head off and kill you instantly. I will bet my life against anyone's life that what Commander David Fravor encountered, that he said was not a human-built craft, I will bet my life that it was not a human-built craft and that we don't possess a craft that can do physically what that aircraft did, including like disappear into thin air. So I say the same thing here. I would bet my life against any one of those people that Karen Read did not hit that man with her car and that what occurred inside that home. I'll bet my life against anybody that wants to say otherwise. I'll bet my life on it. That's how sure I am. Now, what I talk about tonight is a hypothesis of what happened, and I can't be as sure about that, but I'm pretty damn sure because we need a motive to go from let's get him medical attention, he just got hurt, he fell and hit his head, to somebody struck him, and he would identify himself as being struck with an object from behind, and that's felony assault. He fell and hit his head as a result of a fight. Someone struck him in the head from behind and committed felony assault. There is your big M. Motive for murder. Motive to allow him to die, if not murder. I don't believe there's anybody in that house that had the intention that John was going to show up there tonight and that he was going to die. This is the result of people acting out during a fight and something bad happening. The way Ken is so angry on the stand behind all of that is the mama lioness, protect the kids. And I think she means Jen, but guilty for them being involved. Yes. Written all over her face. No question. I know you mean Jen, and I agree with you. Yeah. Yes, the dog too, but they changed it to random dog. No question. No question. That's why the cell phone happened. That's why we got to get rid of the cell phones, because someone from Norfolk Superior Court calls or messages Brian and Brian, you need to get rid of your phone immediately. There's going to be a court order tomorrow. Both of them trade in their phone, get rid of their phone, destroy their SIM cards on the same day. No question. Then we got to get rid of the dog, so they don't match up the dog's dental aspects, the teeth of the dog, with the injuries on John. Got to make sure the dog's gone. Got to remodel the basement. Make sure there's no blood left in there, because if anybody from the FBI comes in there, they could find blood. And even after we do that, they could still find a trace of blood. And once they find the blood, their entire case falls apart. We got to sell our childhood home, which was probably paid off, and then go move to Norwood or wherever he lives. You look guilty because if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You're guilty. Hello, Britt. Britt Happens. How are you, love? Welcome. We are doing well. I've almost lost my voice. Britt Happens. Let me see. Do I know Britt? Maybe I do. I've almost lost my voice going through this. But I wanted to show why I've come up with this hypothesis, and it's not out of nowhere. Shantae's Inferno, the Ford Explorer parked out front, also cover up the known ring cam across the road. No question, but that ring cam across the road might have shown that, as predicted, Karen Reed's vehicle pulled up to the side of the road. John gets out. John goes in the house. Karen waits 10 minutes. She's probably surfing her phone. She's pissed off, and she drives home. And there is a camera that shows that, I'm sure. And that was what was suppressed and not, nope, there's no video. I don't have any video. Well, we're not going to pursue any video, so you're okay. Because the prosecution would have had to secure that video, and it would have been discoverable, and then the defense could have had it. So we can't discover it, so the defense can't get it. So they can't exclude Karen Reed of the crime, because they need to include Karen Reed by the preponderance of the lack of evidence is how she was included. By, I did it. That was made up. And the Ford Edge, I think, is what you're talking about. The Ford Edge was used, I believe, so that you could slide the body out the passenger side of the vehicle, and then and without anybody seeing. You would have two people exit the vehicle, and then you would drag the body out, and that's probably when Lucky was driving by, but the vehicle may have been blocking where he couldn't see that John's living person was there laying in the lawn. There's still alive, John. Mary, there are 3 witnesses that told the truth, and none of them should be called witnesses for another ridiculous trial. Yeah. That's Lucky Lochran. Tell me who those are. Lucky was one. Tell me who else. Britt thank you very much, ma'am. I do appreciate that, and it's good to see you too. Any of you, by the way, any of you that want to come on the show and talk about stuff, you are more than welcome. We can do a listeners, viewers only show where it's all people who are in the chat. You're welcome to come on and speak. And the cat lady, Colin is the key, young teenage. Yeah, Yeah, it's so funny when KP's always been respectful every time I've seen him. I don't know, all the videos that Turtle Boy found, I don't think he looks too good in those. They lied in the stand, should be charged with perjury except the three. Yeah, tell me the three you're talking about, Mary, that told the truth. I guess it would be Officer Barros, Lucky Lochran. I'm trying to think of who the third one would be. Let me know. Yes, she repeatedly turns to look at the jury. Yes, there's no question. There's no question, Britt. She does. She looks at the jury. She's trying to convince them. And the only thing she convinces me is that she's an angry, evil person. And she doesn't seem credible at all to me. They're suspects, not witnesses, and how did Aiden intimidates? Well, I know, but they're not seen as, they are not, by the law, they are not suspects. They are witnesses, and I don't believe Aiden intimidated them. I think Aiden is a very, very courageous young man. Why did Chris Albert invite John to the bar in the first place? I don't know. Maybe Chris Albert, just because Brian doesn't like John. Maybe, I mean, they had a playful relationship, but I don't think this was set up as a murder. That's just my opinion, and nothing else. John's shirt with blood dripping down. He was stood up or sat up for a while before being thrown in the lawn. Love to hear. Yes, I've heard people talk about that, Shantae, and that was very interesting. It's not something that I would have known. Let's see here. Britt agrees it's disturbing too, very intimidating. Mary says, yes, I was in the Enrique chat. Of course, yeah, I saw you there. I was there. I was there too. I had to leave the chat though to go shower. I bathed my dog, and I really needed to get my mind off of Enrique and onto this case so that I could present something to you guys that was cogent. Jen accusing Karen of content creators of not covering. Well, I don't care what I couldn't care less what Jen says, or I think she's a liar and she's not legitimate, and she's obviously working for somebody, probably being, I wouldn't be surprised if she were being paid by Morrissey's office. So I couldn't care less what she says. I'm covering all three, but I haven't had, thankfully Brian is doing this episode tonight, Brian and Nurse Kim, because I don't have anything to cover Enrique right now. I don't know what's happening. Nothing's happened. Thank God that those guys are covering this, really. Because I need to get information. All I did was bring on Chris Luttrell, the former Leo, the former MMA fighter. He retired from law enforcement, worked for New Mexico State Police, retired from Albuquerque Police Department, worked for Sandoval Sheriffs, taught defensive tactics, was an MMA fighter, the first MMA fighter ever for Jackson's MMA when it wasn't even called that yet, and he coached for 2 decades. He testified about Enrique's injuries are not consistent with boxing training. And we've never even seen those injuries in the gym. The broken leg, yes, that could happen. You can get a heel hook and an outside heel hook, which I could demo sometime if I have to. You could potentially break somebody's leg like that. An inside heel hook, you could break the leg on the other side. If I did an outside heel hook on somebody like Enrique, I could break his leg where it would bruise on the interior where it was. But inside heel hook, I could do it on the outside. Break it on the outside of his knee. So in any case, the point I'm getting at is nobody's talking about that with Chris Luttrell. He is the authority and says these injuries are not consistent with police defensive tactics training. They are not consistent with boxing training. These are consistent with some sort of an altercation unknown, something where it was more like a street fight and there were hardened objects. Todd told us there is not a boxing ring, that this is not held in a ring, which means that there could have been harder, firmer objects in which to break Enrique's neck. So I want to say that. Here we go. I don't know if I've missed anything. Tell me if I think I missed some stuff here. Jen M says, let's all do a line, figure out how to help him out. Yeah. Britt Happens apparently likes starting. Yeah. If they could frame KR, they could bury those kind of charges for CA. Yes. Yes, they could, but in the drunken state those guys were in, they may not have thought of that. That's a great point, Liz. But remember, if you have a live, I want you to remember this, Liz. You have a live, living, breathing, injured Boston police officer who's in the hospital, who now can't go to work, who's concussed, who maybe has to go through a concussion protocol, who had convulsions, right? Has to go through a concussion and is a serious deficit now because he could be out of duty with Boston police. That is a whole different ballgame. Now you have the Norfolk County that has to react to that. And there's pressure coming from the hierarchy at Boston Police Department because he is that kind of injured that now he cannot perform on duty and maybe is undergoing a concussion protocol and is spending thousands and thousands of dollars of their medical, police medical fund, police medical insurance to care for him. That's not going to just get brushed under the rug the way it would if it was Karen Read, or if it was you, or if it was me, or if it was any random citizen in Turtle Boy or any random citizen from Canton. It's a Boston police officer who's now out of duty, and they're going to want answers as to why he's out of duty and who committed that assault and hit him on the back of the head. That's how this differs from whether it's CA or, whether it's a civilian. It's Boston police officer John O'Keefe, who is alive and is talking to investigators at the Norfolk County DA MSP division, like Proctor and Tully and Fanning and all of them. And he's telling them, one of these assholes hit me on the back of the head, Colin, and I want something done about it. Not easy to, okay? And you guys are reacting. Registry is one. Been verified. Thank you. There's tons of them. Right. You call 911 and you get him help, unless you're trying to cover something. It wasn't Higgins. Would never cover for him if he hurt John and called for help, Sidney Sue says. It was family. Higgins left the house to distance himself. He maybe went to someone he trusted for advice. No question. They would not have covered for Higgy Poo. They would cover for family. I think Jen disliked Karen very much. They were introduced because they both have MS but didn't click. I think Jen is, no question. I've had I spoke with another woman from Canton, and we talked about those issues. She knows these women. She went to high school with these women, and she told me, yeah, they would be jealous of Karen, a woman who went and made it on her own, single, successful, had a $950,000 home, a brand new car, worked at Fidelity, and was an adjunct professor. And that compared to being a soccer mom, nothing against moms, because moms are, I love my mom. Moms are the greatest thing in the world. But women can develop jealousies over things like that. Media claimed to have Karen hitting him on, right. It was a bold-faced lie, and they never with fervor put that out to clear Karen. Let's see, what else we got here? Yes, we discussed that earlier. We did discuss that they were both in the wedding together. Mike was there. It was, I guess, Courtney Proctor's wedding, and both Mike and Colin were in the wedding party. Yeah, I don't care anything about what she says. Guys, please make sure you hit the like button for DJ. Yes, if you would, please hit the like button for me. And if you would be kind enough to subscribe to Calling All Beings on YouTube, I would appreciate it, so we can grow the channel, get a bigger voice, and it helps me get guests. Because believe it or not, when I ask somebody to come on the show, and right now, for example, I'm trying to get Brian LTL to join my next roundtable, the Quadfecta that we're doing. When these people are going to look, they're going to see how many followers you got on Twitter and how many YouTubers you got. And I have a lot less than those guys do. So it does help if you subscribe and if you like, because it matters to these content creators because they know I am a smaller potato, even though my head might not look that way, than they are. I believe the foreman was a plant. Yeah, it certainly would indicate that way, wouldn't it? I'm sorry, I'm way behind on these, so forgive me. Take a poll. Yeah, what would that poll be, Margaret? What kind of poll should we do? Because I could put a poll in here if I knew how on YouTube, but or actually Julie would do that, but she's gone. Thank you, love Emma. As I put together during the trial, but it feels correct. Yeah, it exactly. We don't know, but I think we have to hypothesize on that big M, the motive. What was the motive to go from call 911? We're going to let this guy expire. And in fact, we're going to put him out in the cold and hopefully it will speed up him dying, which is what that sick individual Googled how long to die in cold. Agree on jurors and her being acquitted. Never held the belief so many had. Never. Yeah, I absolutely felt that. Please pass the pepper. And thank you for all your support that you've been doing for me on Twitter. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Yes, I never felt that she was going to get a fair shake. From the very early stages of the trial, I was speaking with a friend of mine who's been a law clerk since the late 80s named Jill. And we were talking about this, and I said, Jill, I don't think this judge seems fair. I think she has it in for Karen Read. I think she's biased and not impartial. And she had trouble. She was really buying into, I think she hit him but didn't know it. But that means the media did a really good job at what they were doing. Agree on juries? Yes, I agree. We just talked about that one. Why is it that the Commonwealth claims that the most recent generation of Celebrite was wrong? Well, they have to, Britt. Anything that's legitimate is BS, and anything that's BS that they have is legitimate. So they have to flip the truth around. That everything that's legit is not legit. Everything that's not legit, that doesn't have hash values, oh, well, this is the legit thing. Well, it says that she deleted a search there. So why aren't I seeing the hash value? So as Olivia Lambo, this brilliant woman who's on with Sean McDonough, and if you haven't seen the episode of Olivia Lambo on with Sean McDonough, she says they did not, the defense did, and it was a year later, by the way, they did not receive, let's call it an unredacted copy or a forensically extracted digital copy of Jen McCabe's phone or John O'Keefe's phone with the hash values intact. And the hash values tell you that this is an unaltered and they're single event unique identifiers for each call, text, Google search, etc. They never received those because those had been doctored. And their own witness, Ian, admitted that on the stand. Admitted that they didn't have the hash values. Because the recent version shows the Hoslong search. That's correct. That's right. That's why Richard used the exact phone and the exact operating system when he extracted the Celebrite data, but even he didn't have the original extraction because that's what was hidden. Oh, yeah, there's no question, Madeline. His injuries were not, I would bet my life that he was not hit by a car. Those injuries on his arm are not from a polycarbonate taillight that presses in. That wouldn't come out and scratch his arm the way it did. There's just any common sense person knows that. If you feel the taillight, you know that. And also, I want to say this, that cocktail glass was pointed there. I wouldn't bet my life on that. I bet some paychecks on that. I'll bet 2 paychecks on that. That cocktail glass was planted there with him. He did not have that. Well, we know it was because we know he went in the house. So we know for sure the cocktail glass was planted there. 911. There is a man on the lawn at 34 Fairview, Mary Flynn. There's a man. It's the Alberts residence, the world famous Alberts. There's a man on the lawn, not my friend whom I love. She's so full of shit. She wouldn't know the truth if it slapped her in the face. I would also get everything that Karen is 100. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I know that. There's no question. The search, it shows the butt dials. It shows her deleted calls, everything. No question. Hello, Phoebe MC, purveyor of great information. Welcome. Bienvenidos. It's good to have you. We're almost at the end, but you can go back and watch. This will be a podcast. It'll be on Apple tomorrow. And if you also have the time to review me on Apple, review Calling All Beings, just write, 5 words or something. DJ's terrible, and I wish he would grow hair. I wish I could. And maybe even give us a star rating of some sort on Apple. That would be great. Maybe they were just drunk and stupid and it was an accident. It's not a question of whether it was an accident, because if it was an accident, Madeline, we have to get from officer injured, I hit him in the face, he fell and hit his head, I call 911, to I struck him in the back of the head and I'm going to let him die. So with those two things, if he's just injured, they called 911. They don't call 911 because someone struck him on the back of the head. And if he lives, he can tell that he was struck on the back of the head. He can tell the MSP investigators and DA Morrissey that he was hit on the back of the head. That's how we know it wasn't an accident. That's the difference. That's where we get M for motive. If it's an accident, 911, we just had a fight here. He fell, hit his head, he's bleeding. And they come. Someone strikes him. Now we have assault. Now we have a crime. Can everybody see the difference there? I'm going to scroll to the bottom now, because I am way behind you guys in comments. Can you see that? Thank you, Phoebe, for doing that. He falls and hits his head during a fight. No crime has occurred. We call 911. We get him help. Somebody hits him and he wakes up and talks about it. We have a crime. We have an assault, maybe a felony assault. Can everybody see that? That's the difference. So you see what I'm talking about. Your theory is the same as mine, DJ, and the little horror, and the horror is that John most likely been non-responsive and convulsing in them deciding we can't call this in. That's right. That's what happened. Because somebody had to have caused that injury, or it's not criminal. Somebody falling and hitting their head is not a crime. There's no reason that they want this dude to die. The only reason could be if someone committed an assault on him, a felony assault, and they thought if he talks about it, somebody's in trouble, likely the youngest member of this group. That's what's going on here. Yes, they did a horrible crime, then did even more by covering it up. Yes, the horrible crime would have been if they hit him. That's the only thing I can think of. The motive for not calling 911 is if they believe they committed a crime that needed to be covered up. So I think I'm finishing off this podcast where I want to be. If you tell someone to listen to the last 20 minutes, they're going to get it all. It took me a while to get here. Well, here's the thing with it went too far. It's not a crime for somebody to fall and hit their head. There's nothing criminal about that. Two guys getting in a fight. I know this is so absurd, Britt. So, I mean, I wanted to just like, this made me want to puke. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this to Phoebe. Two guys having a fight, a one-on-one fight, two officers out of the public eye in a basement is not criminal. If two guys decide that they want to fight, it is not criminal. It is not actionable under the law. What it becomes actionable, even if he falls and he hits his head and cuts his head open, that is not actionable. It's two guys fighting and one guy fell and hit his head. It happens in fights all over the country every day. When it becomes criminal is if someone is engaged in a fight and somebody strikes that individual in the head from behind with an object. Now we have a crime. No, they barely knew him. I don't know if I told you, DJ, about the guy in the chat about the first week of the trial that said he was in a bar and someone came in very drunk and said they were somebody. They were what? They were, let me see, Colin Albert, and they were who beat up. Yeah, you know what? You have not told me that, but I hypothesized tonight that it was the young one because we have to have a cogent motive not to call 911 and get the ambulance over there. It had to have been a felony assault, and it only makes sense. It's the one guy there was. He wasn't in the house. He wasn't in the house. He was never in the house, or he was in the house before Karen even pulled up in her car. He left. That's what his uncle said. That's what everybody said. That's what Allie McCabe, the daughter, said. Because then she got roped into this. It's the injuries to the knuckles, to the fists. It is more the bruises on the back of the hands. He was in a fight. He has the bruises here. He was in a fight. The abrasions here. He was in a fight. Now we get to the back of the head, and now we have assault. You know what? When I turn this way, it makes me look like I have blonde hair. I like that. I really don't have blonde hair. I have almost no hair. And that's where the assault happens. That's where the felony happened. And if the youngest person in that house, Colin, did it, now we have that motive for the cover-up. We got to let him die, because if he wakes up and he says that little bastard hit me in the back of the head when I was fighting with Brian H., now you have a bunch of drunk idiots that's saying, Gotta let him go. Can't finger my nephew. Thank you for that, Phoebe. You always provide amazing information, and I had no idea. But that stands to reason with the reason I did this show. I believe it truly is heartbreaking, Madeline. That is the reason why I did this show tonight. I, too, want John's true justice. I do. I'm wearing this black shirt tonight for John. Wind up at the bar to at least 3-1 in the back of the house. Somebody's going to have to clear that one up for me. I don't quite get it. Britt, I'm going to wind back and watch your theory from the beginning. You're more than welcome to, Britt, if you'd like to come on. On Twitter, if you want to reach me, let me see if I can post this. I'm going to post this for you guys. Beings1 at Gmail. Okay. So there I've put the email address for the show. You can reach me there if you want to come on. Because some of you guys may not be on Twitter, and for good reason. So if you want to reach me there and you want to come on the show, you are more than welcome. Okay. I would like to talk about the case in Fort Walton Beach regarding Eddie Duran and Roger Fortson. Yes. Oh, Britt. Wow. Do you know me from Fort Walton by chance? I don't know, because I was stationed at Hurlburt from like twice, but my most recent, I was at Hurlburt from December of 17 until August of 2021. If I get that. No, I'm sorry. August of 2023. So, yeah, 2017 to 2023, I was at Hurlburt as a civilian and a contractor, civilian government dude. And then I was stationed there as an active duty as AFSOC from 2005 to 2002 to 2005. Whew, man, my memory is really, really getting stressed. I need to take my Alpha Brain pills. But anyway, yeah. If you'd like to speak with me, on Twitter, let me take this down. I would love to speak with you about Roger Fortson. I believe Eddie Duran was fired. On Twitter, I am at call_all_beings. Otherwise, calling all beings, the number 1 at Gmail. You can reach me and we can get in touch over Signal or however you like. Okay? Because with Signal these days, I believe WhatsApp is the same. You can send somebody a QR code so that they can call you, but they don't have your phone number. So the only way they can contact you is on Signal. But oh, thank you very much. Somebody just gave a $4.99. Thank you. I'm going to look at that in a second. You don't have to give the person your phone number. You just give them the QR code. They click on that, and then if they have Signal, you're connected on Signal. You can have a conversation, but they don't have your personal phone number. So any of you who want to connect with me on Signal, we can do that as well using that method, so you don't have to give out your phone number. Okay. Madeline, why can't I bring this up on the screen? I should be able to. Here we go. Wow, I had no idea you guys made all these donations. I wasn't even paying attention. Madeline, thank you, thank you, DJ, for all this information and your care. You are helping bring justice, and we appreciate you so much. I similarly appreciate you, Madeline. Namaste. I'm trying to break it down and put it in a way that we can process it and try to figure out what's happened here. And figure out the motive. Thank you, Britt, for the super sticker. Thank you, ma'am, fellow Fort Walton Beachian. I will forever be an AFSOC, even though I am with Space Force now, I will forever be an AFSOC airman. So I'm proud and love Fort Walton Beach and the whole area in Destin and Santa Rosa Beach. I've lived in all those. Okay. Thank you so much, Mary Flynn. You're always very, very giving when you come on here, and I greatly, greatly appreciate you, all of you. I have just had an amazing experience, and that's why I do this, is to connect with people and friends. So what else we got? I think that's everybody. Yeah, that's Britt, Mary, Madeline, and the cat lady. Yes, that is essentially what I was saying, cat lady. It's not, police are not being arrested for this. It's not a crime to have a fight with somebody else. It can be a public disturbance, but when it's done within your own home and it's two adults fighting, there's not a crime. There's a crime when somebody assaults somebody else. That's what happened in the back of John's head. All right, let's get the rest of these and we'll close the show out. So you guys got me right there. It's calling all beings, the number 1 at Gmail to reach me. If you want to come on and speak with me, we would love to have you on. We would love to do a show with just you guys. No content creators, just people from the chat. And you're welcome. We can do that. No problems making that happen. Yes. Don't know that one right there, but I wonder that too. Shantae's Inferno. Colin and Higgy really wanted to fight, and that was the second nature to BA, so I agree. Okay, I didn't see the whole of that, so I've already told you what I think happened. I think that John was in a one-on-one, something with Higgy. Not a crime. Falling, not a crime. They're engaged. All of a sudden, because in order to hit somebody in the back of the head, they have to be behind you and you don't see it. So clearly he's looking at as I'm looking at you, but he's getting smacked in the back of the head with a piece of metal such that it would leave a 2.5 to 3 inch gash. So that is the crime right there. That is the felonious assault. By nature, I'm this way. All of a sudden I get hit like that. Maybe I fall forward on my face. Maybe that's where the nose abrasion comes from. Because you get hit on the back of the head like that, you can just take a nosedive forward. I covered MMA for years. I've watched a lot of MMA. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, this is for Officer John O'Keefe. I don't talk about him enough. Going to make sure that I do. No, sir. My family was stationed at Eglin in 2004 and moved back here in 2019. We may have run into each other at some point, though. Yeah. Possibly. Yeah, I was there for, while you were there, I was there for a couple of years. But in any case, please contact me at that email and we can connect via Signal and talk about Roger Fortson. And maybe we could do an episode on Roger Fortson as well, because I believe Duran was fired, as he should have been. Let's see. Oh, wow. Britt says now he's facing manslaughter charges. Big time wow. So, yeah, let me know. Maybe we could do an episode on Roger Fortson. I think that would be appropriate, and I needed you to make me think of it. Okay, I say dog inserted herself because of the yelling covering for her humans. So it's easy to believe that Higgy... Yes, absolutely. It could have been anybody. I don't get too wrapped up in the dog other than to say it's so obvious that it was a dog, which we also asked Chris Luttrell when he was on, because he's done so much police work with defensive tactics. It's so obvious that it was a dog bite and not a polycarbonate tail light pieces. It's no question. I just don't get wrapped up in it because it's not too material other than to show it happened inside the house. That's the most material thing about our beloved Chloe, who's probably 6 feet under the ground right now with a 45 round in her head. And bless her, because she's welcome to come and live with me. Yes, Mary. Yes, no question. I believe Chloe might have been a police dog that failed out of training, and that's when the Alberts took her in. I believe that was the story behind her. Someone can correct me. Yes. No question, Phoebe. Yes. So much love to everybody in the chat. I love the way we have each other to process this and raise awareness. Yeah, we are all a blessing to one another. I love making new friends. I am not in competition with any of these content creators, not Turtle Boy, not Mazza, whom I love, and Glare, and Kim, and Brian LTL, and Mike. I love Mike, the young jerk. These are people I consider colleagues, not people that I'm competing with, not people I could compete with. And I wouldn't, because I'm just... And now I've made all these friends of you in the chat, and you're a blessing to me to be here. Let's not forget to say my opinion's allegedly not to cover putting initials. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mary. Allegedly. This is what I'm alleging. You're 100% right. Thank you for catching my back, love. And I agree with what she says as well, Mary and Madeline. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, so I think there's another. Great to make a live. Thank you. Great to make a live. I really enjoy the show, the way that DJ presents a roundtable. Thank you so much. Not everybody does, but I will. But yeah, I better close it out here because I'm just going to babble and just read your stuff all night because I really enjoy reading you. Thank you very much. I've been doing the roundtables since, I don't know, 2010, 2011, with MMA, with UFOs, with Bigfoot, and now with true crime. And we will do another roundtable. We're looking at Brian LTL. We're looking at Suzanne Cleveland from Sandra Birchmore. Analyze, who you guys know from YouTube, Analyze, who you've seen at a couple Karen Read standouts. She's in Mass. And Mazza Media, because Mazza's only been once on Cab. Brian has never been on. Otherwise, I would just invite Mike, because I love Mike. But I've never spoken with Brian. And then Nurse Kim will co-host this roundtable with me. So to be, if we get this together, Mazza, Brian LTL, Suzanne, Analyze, who we'd love to bring to more prominence because she has great stuff, and then Nurse Kim. So we'll let you know how the planning for that goes November 2nd. Thank you, love. Thank you for Walton Beachian stepping in here. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Arlene. Appreciate it. Thank you, Margaret. I love your name. I am a New Yorker. I am from the Hudson Valley of New York. Proud graduate of Hendrick Hudson High School and student at Dean College in Franklin, Mass. So, yes, very proud New Yorker. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. This will be out on podcast here. I'll put it out tomorrow. And I hope to see you all again soon. Contact me. Let me know what you want to see on the show, and you are welcome to all come on as a just a listener only show and talk to one another live on air. So all of you will get on, as many of you as I can. We can make an hour and a half or 2 hours to do so, and it would be great to have you all. Okay, love you guys. On behalf of Calling All Beings, this is DJ saying peace out. One love. We'll see you down the road. And we always wonder what's up around the bend.